Hi, boys and girls. We're getting ready to start our first reading story of the year. Our first unit is called Classic Tales. These are tales and stories that have been around for a very long time. The first one we're going to read is called The Wind in the Willows. You can come back to this introduction as many times as you want to hear what the story's about and what we're going to learn about. And I just wanted to share with you some information about the story before we get started. So the first question is, what is a willow? There's a picture of a willow. There's many types of willows. This one happens to be a tree and it's called a weeping willow. You can see that it's just kind of weeping. It's right there. Willows like a lot of water, so you would find them near rivers, lakes, ponds, other bodies of water. The story we're going to read is fiction. If you remember, fiction stories are not real. The author, the person that wrote the story, made it up from their imagination. It was written by Kenneth Grahame. He was born in Scotland, but he moved to England when he was very young. There he is. And we're learning about continents. Scotland and England are on the continent of Europe. They make up the country, the United Kingdom. So 4 countries come together to make up the United Kingdom. Some people call it the UK for short. And it's Wales and Northern Ireland are also the other 2 countries in the UK. So here's a map of the world. Here's where we are in the United States. Right around there is where the state of Pennsylvania is. And the story was written over there. You can see the UK outlined. And there's the United Kingdom close up. Citizens of the United Kingdom are called British because the main landmass of the United Kingdom is called Great Britain. You can see down there. There we go, all 4 countries. Graham told these stories to his son, and his son's nickname was Mouse. I actually have a friend who has a daughter. Her nickname is Mouse. It was for entertainment before he even wrote the stories down. The setting of the story is the English countryside. That's where the author grew up, and it's near a river called the Thames. And here's where that is on a map. Let me move myself out of the way, and you can see it right there. Southern part of the United Kingdom. So how do you think a setting on a river might affect the plot of a story? Would it have any effect on the story? That's a question I want you to keep in mind as we begin to read the story. These differences in words can be found all over the US. So there's some differences because on the last slide we were talking, it was to do an activity with soda and pop. So do you call soda soda or do you call it pop? And depending on where you are in the world, you might call things different words. They're called a dialect. Okay, differences in words are called a dialect. And even though people may be speaking the same language, there may be some differences in words that they use. Since The Wind in the Willows is set in the United Kingdom, the book is written in British English. So there's going to be words and phrases that are new or sound a little different to us because they are from a British dialect. They call this period in British English. There's a period. It was published in 1908, so 112 years ago. It's considered one of the best children's stories ever written. And it's been a long time. I read it a long, long time ago, so I'm excited to read it again with you. Do you know any stories that are considered classics? I bet you've read some and you don't even realize it. Charlotte's Web, I know some second graders heard this read to them last year. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The Wizard of Oz, maybe you've seen the movie The Wizard of Oz. Where the Wild Things Are is a great classic, and Alice in Wonderland. So here's the cast of characters. The characters are the people, or in this case, animals that are in the story. We have Mole. We have a water rat, badger, and toad. Let me move myself out of the way there. Okay, so there's our cast of characters. Even though the characters are animals, they act like people. So they're going to talk and move about like people. That's called personification. Do you see any familiar words in that big word, personification? Say it with me. Personification. Do you see or hear a smaller word in there? Person. So the animals are acting like people. They're going to act like a person. It's when an animal or thing is given the characteristics of a person, like talking, and you can see in the pictures they're wearing clothes, they're standing up, and they are four-legged animals. Driving cars, Toad is sitting in a chair, okay? So that's the cast of characters for Wind in the Willows. And you're going to hear lots of examples of personification in this story. 3 more things that we want to review. We have dialogue, we have plot, and we have setting, okay? The events of a story are the plot, the things that happen in the story. The location and time period of a story is the setting. And the parts of the story where the characters speak to one another is called dialogue. Boys and girls, that's what you need to know to enjoy the Wind in the Willows. Again, you can come back and watch this as many times as you need to. We're going to have a great time reading this story together.